It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmic Voice. Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Nanolini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Voice. This is Season 4, Episode 10, our 100th episode. I am here with my co-host, Chris Nanolini.
100, man. 100. I'm excited. What's going on?
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to a milestone show here at the Cosmic Voice. Chris, how are you, my good man?
I am doing awesome on our 100th episode, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. The fact that we made it to 100 episodes. I was excited at number 1, and we got it edited and out. Now we're here. It's almost like we're veterans of the podcasting world.
I know. Joe Rogan, look out. We're coming up, buddy.
That's right. Spotify, make room, because...
That's right. We're coming up, man. We're coming up. Catching up, Joe.
Yeah, we're catching up. We caught something. I'm not sure, but we're here. We're doing our 100th episode, which is just in itself phenomenal. So what goes through your head right now thinking of that? When you think back 2 years ago when we were just struggling just to hear each other through the Zoom. Not to say that doesn't happen now and again.
You know what, man? Like, the first thing I think of is, man, that was fast. Like, literally, we've been doing this so long, and it's crazy. You know, it's interesting how the show has kind of evolved and how we kind of, because every once in a while I'll go back to the beginning and hear how the whole thing has kind of changed or how we've changed. Not necessarily as people, but as podcasters. I don't know. It's exciting, man. 100. I mean, it's awesome. And it's, like I said, it came so fast. I don't really pay attention to numbers until we had talked about it. And then I look back and go, like, man, 100. It's amazing, man. Amazing. I mean, it's just a credit. It's a credit to you because, you this was your baby and you keep it going and you do predominantly all the work. I just show up and BS for an hour and you do everything else. So it's more of a credit to you. But no, man, I'm excited when we get together. I'm always excited to talk to you and chat because what you and I have done is, for the most part, there's some parts that we don't put on the air, but for the most part, these are conversations that you and I have, in our personal private lives when we're together. So to be able to share these stories and these ideas and our thoughts and opinions with people is pretty awesome. And to do it with you is, even better. So 100 is killer. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. Going back to what you said, like, I wasn't really paying attention to the numbers per se. I almost missed it because I knew that it was going to come up at some point, but I wasn't really thinking in those terms, like, oh, yeah, 100 episodes, this is what we have to do. We were just kind of like, putting whatever we had out on the plate and getting it out there and then moving to the next topic, because I know we had worked out some topics for the season that we wanted to discuss, get out there, because it's a learning process too, right? Because we know a little bit about something, but then we research it some more, or we take some current event or topic that's happening and we try to, put a spin on it based on our experiences and what we're trying to convey with the show. I go back and listen a little bit myself. Again, you know me, once something's done, I kind of move past it. I don't want to go back. But if, you're checking audio and you're comparing audio and stuff, but I have seen the evolution of the show. And I think we've matured as presentators. And I think that would be a natural course of action. It's just like with anything. If you keep doing it, it's honing your craft. You're getting better at it. But again, thank God for editing, because it really does make us look a little bit more intelligent than maybe what we are. And it is, especially on my end, a lot cleaner in the language than if it was just a conversation between you and I. So even youngsters can learn and listen to this show without having somebody, offended. It's exciting. When I had the idea, I never really considered the time length that it would go. Like, I never considered that we would do it for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever the case. I wasn't even sure it was going to be a year thing. I figure, we'll do 6 months, the world will go back to normal, and no one's going to have time anyway.
Right.
And now it's become part of the schedule of my life, right? It's like...
Me too.
So it's like, my wife goes, "Are you recording this week? What's your schedule? This, that, and and sometimes she goes, "What's the topic?" And I go, "I don't know. We're still trying to work all that out."
You know what? My wife does the same thing. She'll hit me up, usually earlier in the day. She'll say, "Okay, like, what time you guys playing?" And I go, "Well, this time." She's like, "All right, I'll make sure, what time you get home from work. I'll have dinner. That way we can eat real quick. You can have some coffee, and then you can go up and do the show." And again, over dinner, she'll be like, "What are you guys talking about?" And I'll be like, "Well, I don't know. Sometimes we just wing it."
Yes,
that moment.
That moment, you know what I mean? So,
and I do have to say, I know how you and I speak normally. So it's shocking to me that our language on this show is not that bad. I don't even know if we've ever even cursed on this show, which is amazing to me.
There's been some, maybe like the ASS or but the real bad stuff, no. I wanted to make it a point to using this as a learning vehicle for me is, can I curtail my language and get my point across without certain adjectives, right? And me, listen, you've known me since we were 14, and my vocabulary is about the same, and every other word is an adjective. So that was the only way people would listen to you back then.
I'm so shocked that our language isn't as on this show isn't like our language when you and I are hanging out somewhere.
Right. Right. So it's crazy. You know what I mean? It really is.
It's Russ the Boss.
Take it down.
This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
But yeah, the show has evolved. We've gone from topics to submitted questions to bouncing stuff off of each other to experiences. It really is amazing at what can be done with just a little bit of time, a little bit of effort,
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that if we simplify it, and I think we have simplified it. I know I've been on other shows where the opening segment is like 15 minutes and it's all this stuff and that stuff and that. And then I think a lot of times you'll get that because what happens after that may not be that much of content.
Right.
So, and being that we're not we are a music show, a business show, but we don't really play music on here. We talk about music and the business aspect.
Right.
And I know one of our goals originally was to have guests on, but it's evolved that we haven't had guests on. Like, we've had enough content and enough information to convey based on experiences. And because we're also musicians that are still working, so there's always this pool of information that we can bring back to the show.
Yeah.
Who knows? I know we talked about it for last season. We were thinking that we were going to start bringing in more guests. And then this season, we thought we were going to do that as well. Yet it still hasn't happened. It may never happen. I don't know. But it's not that we're completely tossing it out and saying no, no is no type of thing. So who knows where it's going to go.
I think also, too, the industry it really is always changing. There's always something going on. I guess it was last season or it was the beginning of this season, the whole Joe Rogan, Spotify, Neil Young thing happened. That was a whole show. So, sometimes there's just things that you and I don't expect to talk about, and something comes about and you go, oh, we need to talk about this because, it is an important part of what we do. That's been the cool thing too. You start out one way and you go, okay, we're going to do this. And then there's things that happen, then we just really can't. I guess we could ignore, but why would you? You know what I mean?
Listen, when we started this podcast, it was a major upheaval in the world, in the music world, in everyone's world. I hate to say this way. We couldn't have picked a better time because the music industry that we had known a day prior was gone and it changed. So the last 2 years have been a pool of things to talk about because everything that you and I had come to know, it was gone or just completely changed. And now as the world tries to set right and the music industry, I just talked to a couple artists as I was interviewing them for the Cosmic View. depending on where you're at in the world, they're still seeing it as bad as it was last year in terms of trying to get things started again. Some bands have done nothing.
Yeah.
The Tigers of Pantang, right? These guys haven't seen each other. They've recorded an album, or an EP rather, and released it, but they haven't been in the same room for 2 years. And they're getting ready to go back out on tour finally as the summer's about to hit. They haven't played for 2 years, haven't seen each other for 2 years, and you know, the last 2 years have opened up that opportunity for everyone to work globally, remotely. Yeah. And that's been a plus. That's been keeping things going, people sane, creativity still happening. But it's still that social aspect that music brings to both the band and the audience that's missing in a lot of parts. And you and I, prior to going live tonight, we were talking about there's only a few places to play right now. Even though things are kind of going back to normal. Well, whatever normal is, I'm not even sure. But there's far less places to play. Yeah. And depending on your genre, there's even less places to play.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So a lot of people are saying it's going to still be a couple more years till we'll see everything kind of really kind of balance back. And maybe, like you were saying a couple shows ago, once a lot of these big concert tours get cranking, you know, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Poison, whatever, and they actually really do hit the road, maybe from that point forward you'll start seeing things really kind of start to balance out.
Yeah, you know, in the news lately, you know, we've been seeing a lot of, you know, the Megadeth and Lamb of God around on tour. And, you know, Lamb of God has just been hit with craziness. You know, their singer got COVID. He was out for 2 shows. Then the bass player was out. And, you know, they're just trying to stay on it. So, you know, this kind of thing where bands are going to be revolving members because one gets sick or shows are going to get canceled, like that's going to become a thing for a little bit, especially, you know, with, unfortunately, we still do have this COVID thing kind of in our lives right now. You know, it may not be, depending on what you believe, which is fine, it may not be as bad as it was in the beginning of 2020, but it's still out there and it's still affecting things. And it may be a while before we move past that, where members and shows aren't getting canceled because of you know, because of sickness. Because you and I, we talked about a couple shows ago, you know, now the thing to do is when you buy tickets, buy insurance, because you don't actually know, or don't buy tickets because you don't know if the show's going to happen or not.
Right.
You know, and I think right now, you know, that's what we're seeing during this time where shows are trying to get back and people are trying to get back into the swing of things. I think, like you were saying, I think it's going to be a little bit before we finally get back to 2000 and, you know, the summer of 2019, when everything was just, you know, it was just normal, you know, for our normal back then.
Sure. No, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on a podcast. I don't think that COVID's ever going to go away. I think it's going to fall into the category of some type of flu, some type of cold. So I think it's always going to be with us. It's how we then choose to deal with it, our perspectives on it, and how the treatment of it, you know, because for most colds, you go buy over-the-counter stuff. Even for some average flu, there's a lot of over-the-counter stuff, right?
Yeah.
And maybe COVID will fall into that as well over time. I don't know. You know, it usually takes a generation to kind of work out the kinks.
Yeah, and we don't know that much about COVID, right? And the way it works and the way it, you know, affects the human body and what it does. And there's, you know, everybody apparently, you know, everybody gets affected differently. So you know, we don't know all that. Well, we know the stuff about the cold. We know stuff about the flu, and you know, this we really don't know much about. Only, you know, what we've learned in the past year and a half, 2 years. But I agree with you. I think it'll be around in some form. You know, we just hope that it won't be as bad as it was in the very, very beginning.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I guess this is where Joe Rogan got in trouble, but I'll say it anyway. I think as our immune system starts to build up again as a people, and we're getting out there and doing things, we just have to wait and see. I mean, listen, every year there was a new strand of flu, there was a new strands of allergies, and that, you know, allergy levels were different every year. I guess it all becomes relative to that point. And if you've lived in a world that's become the norm, then it doesn't affect you. Like, again, like I've been to Mexico several times. They tell you every time, don't drink the water, don't do this, don't do that, because you haven't built up that immune system in your body as the natives have, right? So it's the same thing. Now, I guess maybe over time, if I stayed down there and I lived there for, you know, whatever, maybe that'd be the case. I don't know. But anyway, talking about our 100th episode, Just as a couple quick facts, we're into our season 4, going on our 2 years of doing this podcast. We've had additional content on top of our Cosmic Voice. We've also had the Cosmic Blasts, which were smaller episodes. We had Muck and Junk, those two idiots. I think they were sent home, like, leave with pay, just so they wouldn't come back. And then we had our top 5 show with Cosmo. And maybe he'll come back too, you don't know.
There's always things going on.
Yeah,
Space Station's always got stuff going on.
Yeah, and I mean, over the course of the 2 years, we've been on multiple internet radio stations, on and off different ones. We've been part of, like, some packages with some other DJs that were running shows that wanted to include us. We have a YouTube channel. We have our website. We're on a host of online platforms. We even have our stuff on Facebook. So when it comes out, it's immediately posted on Facebook. But we also post videos or audio videos of the show after it comes out within 5 days on Facebook. And those videos or audio videos, whatever you want to call them, do very, very well on Facebook. But because, with Facebook, they have their videos and they run through your feed, so they're actually active. Well, we do pretty good there. And one of our highest listened to episodes was Season 3 last year, when we talked about, has the music industry chopped artists up into too many multiple genres? Like, is it too much? Has it splintered things? To date, our highest listened to show, which is very exciting. That was the week of Thanksgiving last year. We've talked about this briefly on the podcast before. I still can't repeat why that video or that show was so highly listened to. Did I post it at the right time? Did we have the right topic? Was there nothing else happening in the world that week? Were the stars aligned? I don't know. But it's one of those things, sometimes, unless you're paying for it, you don't know why a video goes viral and other ones don't. It's kind of like where I'm at right now. I can't figure out why that episode. But I look at it as a positive. It's an exciting thing to discuss here at the show. But all the videos seem to do well in the long run. But this one really stands out as something, so I don't know. It was a good episode in terms of, our opinions as to why things have gotten so splintered and the perspective of some of the other artists that we've talked to over the years, but you never know. But that's kind of exciting. Yeah.
You and I said, in the very, very beginning, we're happy if anybody listens. So, when, you and I usually talk off the air and we go, oh, this got a lot of great views or a lot of downloads or whatever. I mean, that makes me, I'm thrilled by that because, when you started this thing, you and I talked and we had in our heads where we wanted it to go. And as it's grown and grown and grown, and now I thrive for it. Like I go, it's got to get bigger. I'm pushing it. Let's get this bigger. Let's get it bigger and better. So when stuff like that happens, all right, like we're, slow and steady wins the race, right? I mean, that's how I look at it. And in this day and age, there's a billion podcasts. I mean, everybody's doing podcasts now. And, so people give us that hour of their time. That's awesome to me. That means a lot because I know I listen to a lot of podcasts and I have gotten, social media friendly with some of the people that I listen to. And, it's super cool. And they're, that's how they start out, and a couple of podcasts I listen to that I'm friendly with the people that do the show. They only have, 1,000 people listening and they're thrilled by that. I'm like, that's so cool. Like, so, when we get a decent amount of downloads or views or whatever, I'm excited by that because that's awesome. I'm glad,
Yeah, didn't really have expectation in terms of audience size. I mean, you and I did a lot of talking before we got this actually going. I mean, we had ideas about how we wanted the show to be conducted, types of topics, how we wanted to present those topics and, move along like that and then have it in a nice, concise package, front bumper, end bumper, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we never really thought about, we'll put it out there and we'll see what happens. And that was it. Like you said, when we see these numbers, it's just staggering in the sense it's like, wow, somebody else is listening. And that's kind of cool. It really is kind of cool.
It's super cool.
And when you have it in so many different platforms like we do, and I know there's even more, but that starts to make my head hurt. You're taking, like, one platform or sets of platforms aren't showing the true number. You have to
Yeah.
look at it here, and you have to look at it here, and you have to look at it here, and you put all those numbers together. It's just like with any business, right? I mean, you have to see how your markets are doing. Sometimes those markets cross, and sometimes they don't. They're opposite ends of the spectrums. They'll never cross. But you have to be at least aware of it. Some markets, or platforms in this case, are stronger than others. But just like you said, there's thousands and thousands of podcasts. And there's a lot of online platforms, some that people know about that are, big names, bigger names, and then ones that like you're like, I know I'm in this business and I never heard of them, but they have people that listen. And sometimes it's a device thing. It comes with certain devices. It comes with your PC package or whatever the case may be. So you have to kind of take that into consideration. It's just like doing this podcast or doing your music as an artist. It's a much larger perspective that we should take. Because if you have that fixed, narrow vision, you put them blinders up and go, well, like say, I want to focus strictly on Spotify. That's the big one. That's where all the big dogs are. Well, okay. But if you don't have that resource or the finances or the backers to help influence those numbers, you're going to be disappointed quite often. But if you do some focus there, but you allow it to, there's nothing wrong with playing ball with the smaller teams.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because there's still people there. You can hone chops. You can whatever. At the end of the day, especially with this type of thing, all those numbers add up. It doesn't matter. They all add up to the bottom line. So, it's the same thing with bands doing shows. And we were just talking before we went on the air. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to play in front of thousands of people, hundreds of people. And I've been fortunate to play in front of absolutely nobody but the sound man person. Let's be politically correct. But it was a sound man at the time.
You are listening to The Cosmic Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
And each time you play, you're playing your music better. It's a chance to hone. Like if you've read the story about the Beatles, and we talked about this, they would sometimes play 8 hours.
Yeah.
Sometimes in front of a lot of people, sometimes in front of no people, sometimes in front of a group of people that weren't even paying attention to them.
Yep.
But they learned how to do so many things. Chord changes and melodies and understanding theory on the fly. They could basically play anything at any time. They could make up stuff on the spot. They would understand changes. And so whatever they were doing, though it may have seemed like a nightmare at the time for them, got them to be the Beatles that everyone wound up loving so many years later and still do, you know.
Right.
I'm not saying that this podcast is going to be the Beatles someday. I'm going to venture to say I doubt it, but you know what I mean? You got to try to have that perspective. That's what this is all about. 100 episodes, that's about perspective in my opinion. I mean, because
for sure.
I had no idea about podcasting. None. And
No,
no
I
offense to you, neither did you, because we couldn't even figure out the technology. And we're both.
Listen, I don't know about podcasts, and I am not technically sound.
So
I got 2 strikes.
It was a challenge that we got this far. Man, they should give us a cookie. That way I look at it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's taking that idea and running with it. Like we've had shows on that. Just go do it, give it a shot. Maybe just say yes, figure it out. I mean, all these different things. But, you know, we had an idea and we wanted to run with it and we figured it out as we went along. And we had some issues with sound in the earlier episodes. And I think over time we got them fixed the best that we could, or everything kind of streamlining for us so that we don't have to focus so much on that now. We can really focus in on the content. It's all about that perspective.
Oh, that is 1,000%. 1,000. Like I can come into my studio and I know exactly what buttons to hit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's that. Even Zoom too. Like, you know, when you and I first started this, if you remember, I don't know how much you worked with Zoom, but I had never done Zoom before. I'd never even heard of it until, you know, the world shut down, that everybody was using it. So, you know, even that, like even just trying to learn how just to use Zoom. Now everybody's
Zoom. That stock went out the
yeah.
So let me ask you this. Is there an episode or a couple episodes that stand out for you in terms of the topic, what we talked about? Anything that just strikes you like glad we talked about that, or what we touched upon, or thing of that nature?
There were a couple that stick out in my mind, and I had brought it up earlier, the censorship one with Joe Rogan and Neil Young. I really enjoyed that episode, the sub-genre I really enjoyed that episode when we talked about the Kiss documentary.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I'm trying to go back earlier, traveling, how to tour. And, we were offering up advice, when we traveled overseas and that kind of thing. And, what we experienced and what would be the easiest way and what to do and what to expect. And they're the ones that stick out in the forefront of my head when you ask me that. How about you? Is there any ones that stick out for you?
Some of the ones that you mentioned, absolutely. I remember the one where we talked about traveling overseas. That was kind of fun because we did that early on. And, for me, there was still that fresh memory of being stranded in the UK when COVID hit and we only had like a day or two before they had the complete shutdown. So that was kind of, it was fun then because I was home, but, at the time. I like the one that we did about booking shows.
Oh, yeah.
But some of the other ones that we did, like, what it is to be professional, what constitutes being professional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we did a series of those type of shows where, again, I'm going to go back to use that word, but it was more of a perspective in how you handle the situation, how you presented yourself in that situation, and then what you demonstrated at the end of it. Just as an example, and we were talking about this before we hit record tonight, my band just recently played a brand new venue. I'm not going to mention names or venues or states or anything like that. We played a brand new venue. It was a beautiful stage, beautiful sound, stuff like that. Unfortunately, the night didn't work out the way I think everyone hoped because there's some bands that had pulled out and stuff. It was asked early on if everybody could push back a little bit. Sure, why not? We're there. We're trying to make everything successful. And we were asked if we could play longer. I asked a couple questions just to see if I could get some answers. Are you looking for this length? Are you looking for this length or whatever? Couldn't really get a thing. I says, all right, we can play as long as you want us to play. Just let us know. Though you could tell by, things were kind of a little stressed, but at the same time, we made sure not to add to that stress. And we kept to ourselves and we said, we're here to do a job and that's what we're going to do. We fulfilled everything plus that we were supposed to, which made everyone that needed to be happy about it happy. I've been in situations like that, and bands throw a tantrum, and they go nuts.
Yeah.
And there's always that one guy that says, no, I'm leaving, and then they got to go chase him down somewhere, and they find him at a pizzeria 2 miles down the road, and then he feels better afterwards or whatever. They buy him a piece of pie or something. I've seen that kind of stuff all the time where the band goes up and they're real belligerent because, they lost their set time by, 15, 20 minutes, a half hour or something, or they had to flip. Again, it's just demonstrating where your mind is. It's like, it's not a party. And it's not just about you, like you had talked about. Like sometimes these shows aren't just about you. Listen, if you were the headliner and you were brought in and your name's on the marquee, okay, I get that. If you're that level, you're not dealing with all that other stuff that I'm talking about, right? And everything will be built around you. But if you're just basically a traveling band, you're picking up shows, you're scheduling shows, you're invited to play, whatever the case may be, you're put on these bills. Sometimes they're mixed bills. Most of the time, they're mixed bills. And by mixed bills, I mean, you could have a super heavy band, a medium heavy band, and like a lighter band all on the same bill because they're not touring together. Some are local, some are regional. But if you're there strictly for yourself, well, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Yes, when your stage time comes, you're up there to support your brand, your music, your band. That's your time. Prior to that, it's about, listen, we got to get the show off. And there's a certain response, almost like an unwritten rule in a sense. When you agree to be on a bill, that means you got to follow the rules that are given. Like, you got to be there at a certain time. If they tell you you're using a back line, you shouldn't be given a hard time about it. Because I've seen that so many times. I've gotten stuff from venues that say, yes, you must use our stuff. To me, it's like, that's a no-brainer. Great. That's less I got to carry.
Less you got to carry,
Yeah. That means they'll be able to hone in the sound quicker because they're already used to that equipment. And I'll go back to, that's less I have to carry.
Yeah.
Because in some venues, you got to park like a mile and a half away. And then you're loading at 2 a.m. a mile and a half away, running back and forth, or in the middle of a busy Philadelphia street with your hazards on, right? So the less I have to carry, that's great. Oh, you're backlining cabinets? Fabulous. Oh, you got a drum set? Oh, my God, that's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a couple flight of steps I don't have to make. My bass player now, he's got it down to a science. It's his bass and a little Trace Elliott thing. It's about the size of a... I don't even know what it's not even 6 inches. It pumps out like...
My bass player's the same way. Bass and this little thing that he has.
Yeah, I mean, it pumps out like 300 watts. That's all he needs. It's done. I'm saying to myself, man, I've gotten smaller and smaller, but I still need, something. It's still, yeah, I mean, so it's that kind of thing. And those shows that we did about, being professional and how you treat others and what it is to be like a leader in a band and all that kind of stuff, I think that they're the most thought-provoking because I wind up finishing those shows with you and I'm still thinking about it throughout the night and the next couple of days. And even when I get to the editing deck to go through them, I'm thinking even deeper on them. And I'm like, wow, this is, because sometimes you get this stream of consciousness of talk. And since we do a lot of it on the fly, you don't know where it's going to go and what you're going to come out with. And when you hear it back,
100%.
You're like, did I say that?
Yeah.
Like, does my wife know that I can talk like that? Like that there's actually some kind of coherent intelligence there? Because it doesn't really come out that way when I'm talking to her. So maybe I should play it more for her. I don't know. It's those thought-provoking ones that I feel as hosts, if we go back and start reflecting on it, and I made a joke a couple episodes ago that I'm trying to take some of our own advice and put it into play. But I'm dead serious because, sometimes you get people who go, well, if I could just take my own, I can give advice. If I took my own advice, maybe I wouldn't be in this predicament. Yeah, you think? So I'm trying to teach myself that too,
On the way to on the way to your show, just play one of our episodes.
Yeah, that's it. So it's funny, man. I mean, but it's a good funny. And I am really proud of what we've accomplished with the show, what we've done with the show. And we had a rocky start in terms of technology and stuff. And we've had some ups and downs in terms of some of the third-party partnerships that we've kind of worked on over at least the last 2 seasons, because we've gotten on a couple things. Even though in the grand scheme, like, so again, if we're comparing ourselves to Joe Rogan or anybody like that, our numbers are small and insignificant, right? But at the same time, I don't want to be associated with people or things that just aren't going to reflect the same type of values that we're trying to bring out there. I mean, we make jokes and this kind of stuff, but I think we have the right intention, and I think that's really important because we talked about this even before we started. Like, if it's not really coming from us, then what's the point of us doing this? It is like you and I just talking. The only thing that we don't have pizza. There's not a cheesesteak sitting here and a big vat of fries for the table. You know what I mean? And we're not stuffing our mouths and like we're talking like this to each other. No, napkins and
I think though, man. I think the most important thing is that we may not have the numbers that some podcasts do, but you know what? We're on the board. And I think that's what matters the most, man. I mean, we're in the game. It's we don't have zero. We have numbers on the board. And that right there is something that, maybe there could be some people out there that don't have.
Yeah.
So, I'm grateful about that.
Yeah. I mean, I like I said, I'm very proud of what we've done. It's just really cool. We talked about this before, but the technology has made this more possible. We talked about it, like some of the good things in the music business overall. The digital technology has allowed creations to happen more freely. Like you get this idea and we can put it together. And like this podcast is not like we created podcasts, but it was like, can we do a podcast? Well, yeah, I guess we could. So now how do we do the podcast? Well, there's enough information, and we cycled through a couple different things. We different mics or different boards and different programs and, stuff like that. And several of us, couple different chords over the time, you know what I mean? Oh, I got to get, that chord isn't right. that kind of thing. That chord's not, that chord definitely isn't sounding right, Chris. I'm going to change that one. So, how about now? Can you hear me now? And like we talked about, like for me, like when I finally embraced the digital technology as an artist, I was able to get the idea down to something quicker so I could determine, was this the route I wanted to go, or do you make some kind of just change, but that's what I find exciting as well, because we're still learning and we're still evolving. Who knows what next year's technology is going to be, if this show's still around, that what we're going to be able to offer.
Yeah.
Because just in the two, like you said, in the 2 years, we were on, at one point in time, I think we were on 10 different internet radio stations.
Yeah.
And there wasn't,
yeah.
And it was just a matter of us making the connection, getting the show to them. You know what I mean? Like once we have it, now we can do anything we want with it. It still baffles me today because, in my head, believe it or not, it's still like 86, 87. And, you know what I mean? And I'm like, and then I realized, no, it's not. No, it's not. I was listening to some music today and I was like, wow, this music's almost like timeless. Like I couldn't tell that it was from 87. Like I knew it was from 87 because I had all this rush of memories and these feelings and stuff, but I'm saying it still holds up today. So it made me think the stuff that we do, there has to be some type of attention to detail so that it isn't just, now listen, there are things that we do and we experience and even, things that we like that you can tell have dated. Right? I just recently rewatched The Sword and the Sorcerer. Now, I hadn't seen it in like 25 years. But when it was a staple on Prism and HBO in the Philadelphia area, I watched it every time it was on for 3 years. So I knew, that movie, from forward to backwards. And I'm watching, I'm like, I was literally taken back to the 80s watching it, but it aged, right? It aged, and you can tell, but it still was an enjoyable movie. Where there's a movie like Raiders of the Lost Ark, before it was called Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, that movie has aged with time. It's just, it's a period piece movie, but it's just like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think as artists, in whatever capacity, whether you're doing podcasts, whether you're writing music, whether you're painting or something like that, I think there has to be that attention to detail and that thought process. Can this stand the test of time? Now, I know sometimes, we want to live in that moment and have that excitement, not squash it. But I think if it's long term, if that's your plan, it's long term, like thinking that way, or at least grazing over that thought process during the creative process is not a bad thing. Because it could start adding some substance. Because I'm going to go back to the podcast. A lot of our topics, even though some of them were relevant at that moment, at that time, kind of like the Joe Rogan Spotify thing, there's material in there that is timeless. Like booking a show. Bands are always going to need to book a show.
Yep.
Bands are always going to be traveling and touring to some level, on all different levels, and we talked about it. How do I market the band? How do I market my music? And in 10, 20 years, Facebook may not be around, so you take out Facebook and you replace it with whatever is hot then.
Right,
but the information
Yeah.
is timeless, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's a really good way to look at it, yeah, for sure.
We did an episode, Is Rock Really Dead? And I think that was in season 3 or 2.
I think it was 2.
Season 2. That's been going on now for what, 7-8 years practically now? It's been, it's a thing.
Yeah.
I think it's always going to be something. I still hear DJs and the people on Sirius, and they'll say, tell Gene Simmons rock isn't dead, or, and I was just thinking about that too. Like in Europe, rock isn't dead. They don't talk like that. It isn't. Yeah. It's alive and well. Yeah. Here, in the States, we keep talking about it over and over again. I don't think, and we talked about it, I don't think it's dead. It's just different. And it should be different. And it shouldn't be 1970.
Right. And like we said in the show, if you remember, the definition of rock has changed, through the years. What you and I refer to as rock may not be what your kids refer to as rock in 2022.
Right. The artist is like a rock star today is not a rock star from 85 or 75 or 65, whatever the case may be. So the definition, like you said, has changed. The perspective, we're going back to that word, the perspective has changed. And I think perspectives should change. They should evolve over time. Somebody said, well, I don't like peas. I said, well, I didn't like peas when I was younger either, but I really enjoy them now. Yeah, well, I've never liked them. But this is a person who's 22, and I'm in my 50s. So, yeah, give yourself some time. You ain't that old yet. Things change, perspectives change. And we talked about that, too, in some other episodes, just about guys that moonlight in, 15 bands. When we were young and we were in a band, a guy that was in another band wasn't looked at very well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Unless you were a studio musician or a professional fill-in, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, but now it's an acceptable thing. Not for me completely, but I understand why people do it more so than I did 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. Anyway, man, 100 episodes. Congratulations to you.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you. And everyone here at the space station, congratulations to you.
That's right.
Do you have anything you want to add? You want to say to everybody?
No, man, no. It's 100. I'm so excited about it. We've done some really killer things. We've had some really killer discussions, some great laughs. And no, I'm just looking forward to the next 100, seeing where the show goes and how it evolves even more, and see what other trouble we can get into. Hopefully we'll, get a little controversy underneath us and get those numbers up.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's all you need, a little controversy. The numbers go way up for just a short period of time.
We talked about COVID tonight, so maybe,
I know. We talked about immune systems, COVID. Immune systems, COVID. We brought up Joe Rogan. So maybe we may get lucky here. I don't know. And Rock is dead, right. So I don't know. Who knows? I just want to thank everyone for listening. I really do. I know I say that at the end of every podcast, but I really do appreciate you taking that time. Like Chris said earlier, that 40 minutes, 45 minutes each week. You're taking that time, and to me, I'm so honored by that. I'm just floored that somebody does that. So thank you so much. If you like this show and you like some of our other stuff, or you haven't checked out all of our other stuff, go to www.thecosmicvoice.com and step into the Cosmic Verse and fill that void. You'll never know what you'll find. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
Okay, folks, that will do it for another episode of The Cosmic Voice. Mick and I would like to say thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.